All right, everyone, welcome back. Brand new episode here on What's Your Story? And man, I am excited about our guest today. We're going to learn the story of Nathan Crane. And a bunch of you are probably going, who's Nathan Crane? Well, that's the best part about today. You get to learn who Nathan Crane is. I'll give you a little preview. He is the brand new tech director here at Harvest, responsible for the lights and the sound and some of the mechanical aspects, some of the video aspects. He's also an incredibly talented videographer and photographer. So sort of a jack of all trades, but the perfect mix of what we need here at Harvest. So we're excited to have him on board. We're excited to learn his story today. And we are excited for you to join us. And again, as always, if you have a comment, if you have a question, put it right there in the chat feature. For those of you on Facebook, for those of you on YouTube, it'll be the same. And just like that, see, boom, I'll pull you up and make you famous. And good morning to Donna. How's it going today, Donna? Great to see you. And good morning to you, Nathan. What's up, brother?
Hey, good to see
you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited about your story. I'm more excited that we get to learn more about you today. And you're getting right thrown in the fire. Like a lot of people just had to wait a couple months, but man, we just put you on the 2-week short list, and you're ready to go. We say good morning here to Pastor Derek Downer. Pastor Derek does an amazing job with his ministry in Trinidad. I'm going to botch the name, but it's Caribbean Children's Ministry, or I can't remember all of it. You have to help me out, Pastor Derek, but Derek's awesome. And hopefully one day you'll get a chance to meet him. Nathan, you come on down to Trinidad with us one summer and check him out. Yes. Yeah, he's looking forward to hearing your story. He's got a great story, Derek. So I know you'll be excited to hear it as well. I see Kelly. Good morning to Kelly. Hope you're doing well today, Kelly. Yes, so there you go. There's your invite. Now you have an invitation. Come. Awesome. There you go. And there's Kelly again. So we'll let you all hop in. We'll let the queue build up before we really get going today. Hope everyone had an awesome weekend. Weather-wise, man, we probably couldn't have drawn up a better weekend. Low humidity, nice crisp mornings, nice crisp evenings. So that's what it's all about for me. Sign me up. Like, I don't mind 90 if you take away the humidity. I'm good all day. Good morning, Ruth. Happy to see you, Ruth. What are your thoughts on weather, Nathan?
Colombia is not what I grew up with. It's not what I'm used to. And I'm very, very excited for the cooler days that we've seen in comparison to the past few months.
No, I totally understand. Good morning, Scott Thurber. Good job switching yesterday, Scott.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Scott. Ruth says you have a mug. She needs to see your mug. She's a mug person.
This was a gift. So I got married 5 months ago, and this was one of our wedding day gifts. So she has one that looks very similar to this with a V on it because my wife's name is Baviel. And
okay.
Yeah, this is our mug.
N&V.
Situation.
Awesome. Yeah, Ruth's a big mug person, Ruth. Good morning, Patrick Boswell. Great to see you today, brother. Hope you're doing well. I see she said it's beautiful. So she has mug envy. Good morning, Shauna. I don't really have a mug. I have just this Tervis from my wolf pack here, even though my wolf pack let me down in a very, very big way on Saturday night by catching an L.
Right.
Yeah. But hey, I'm used to that. I'm like 45 years into my fandom. Totally expected. All right. You might know this person.
Hey, it's my parents.
All right. I think, you know what? I'm pretty sure like we've hit a lot of like internationals around the world with our live streams over the last 15 months.
Yeah.
I'm pretty confident I'm like 100% confident. This is the first time we've actually had interaction live from the Ukraine. So
awesome. Yeah.
So welcome in. Is it Jefferson or Jeff? What does he go by?
He goes by Jeff, and it might be my mom. I'm not sure.
Okay.
They like share a Facebook account, so it could be my mom or my
dad.
One of the two, or both. I don't know. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, welcome, Mr. and Mrs. Crane. We're glad to have you today. We're excited to have Nathan, especially. And good morning, Pastor Nate. Good to see you on here as well, man. Good morning to Patrick's giving me condolences for my wolf pack. Yeah, I'm used to it now. I used to like let it affect my week. Now I'm just done. Here we go. It's your mom and Lara. All right. Hey, Mom and Lara. Thanks for joining us today. But yeah, super excited. And again, if you are on here, I'm going to hit this, even though it's going to close. It's going to cross over our eyes, but I just want to put this out there. as a reminder that, hey, you should hit the share button. Yes, maybe if I do this, it won't be as bad. It's still bad. It's still bad. All right, so just kick the share button. You won't be able to see our faces until you hit the share button. So
no, you can poke your head right above it, and then
it's like look, like Wilson from Home Improvement, just peek over the fence. Yes. Anyway, thank you all for joining us, and again, please hit the share button. Again, what's your story? The power of a testimony, right? Over and over again in the Bible, it explains and tells us and reminds us like how powerful our own individual stories are when it comes to leading other people into a relationship with Christ. Using the example that we have in our own lives about how God has affected us and impacted us and led us. And we know that there's amazing power in there. We also know that your story, regardless of whether or not you think it's important or a significant story, each one of you has a significant story. And there's someone out there that you might not even know who will be impacted by your story. And of course, the goal is that something in your story they can identify with that opens the door and gives an opportunity to lead them into a relationship with Jesus. And that's what it's all about. So hit that share button, spread it around, and let's see what God can do with Nathan's story today. And I'm excited because I don't even know. I just know like the broad brush stroke of your story, Nathan. Like, here's what I heard. I heard born in Russia, lived in Ukraine, and then I came to America. So that's what I put. So I know there's a lot of stuff in between there, and I'm excited again to hear this story. But for everyone out there, I hope you had a blessed weekend. Great service yesterday. Awesome worship. Fantastic word from Pastor Ken. As a matter of fact, yesterday was so good. I'm going to replay that tonight. We're going to do a preview of that tonight, premiere of that on Facebook tonight. We're going to replay yesterday's service because, again, it was so good. And the message from Pastor Ken was on point and on fire. So I loved pre-COVID Pastor Ken. I really, really love post-COVID Pastor Ken. So his messages have been amazing as of late. So excited about that. So with all of that said, let me welcome in our brand new tech director here at Harvest, a young man that we're really excited about and blessed to have here as part of our Harvest family, Nathan Crane. Welcome in, Nathan Crane.
Hi.
All right, quick backstory, Nathan. How old are you? Like some quick details about the local, the South Carolina Nathan. Like, give us some quick details.
Okay. I'm 24 years old. Recent graduate of the University of South Carolina with a double major in Russian and media arts. Graduated with the class of 2020. So, affectionately called the COVID class of 2020 because we all got wrecked.
Yeah.
Graduation wise by the pandemic, but it is what it is. And this is my second year, going into my second year of being, I guess, an actual adult out of college.
Mm-hmm.
And I moved. I've been in Colombia for this is what, year 5?
Mm-hmm.
No, this is beginning year 6 here in Colombia for me.
Excellent. Yeah. And you'll never get used to the heat. I've been here 16 years and never get used to it. That's awesome. So yeah, I like what you said, a couple years into being an actual adult. I'm 25 years after college and still trying to be an actual adult. So and that can just go as long as you want. My wife would probably attest to that. Good morning, Johnny Hernandez. Great to see you on here, Johnny, and praise God for helping you get through COVID. I know we were praying, we were worried, and man, so excited that God helped you overcome that, and you're getting back and you're getting strong, man. So thank you for joining us, Jonathan. He goes by Jonathan as well. So good to see you. Or that might be his wife. Regardless, we're excited that you're here. All right, so let's get started. Nathan Crane, this is your story, and let's take it all the way back to the beginning. Now, one of the first things you told me was that you were born in Russia. Where were you born in Russia? What year were you born in Russia? So let's start there.
1997. I was born in Moscow.
Okay.
And I was put in an orphanage.
Okay.
And I was adopted at the age of 2 by the Crane family.
Okay. Awesome. Do you remember anything about the orphanage?
I do not. I do not. The earliest memory I have is going to Atlanta shortly after we arrived back, and I don't know genuinely how long it was, but going to Atlanta and obtaining my U.S. citizenship after
Okay.
being adopted.
Awesome. Awesome. So your parents, they adopted you from Moscow, but they weren't too far away because your parents had been operating in that part of the world as missionaries for a while.
Not yet, not
Not
yet.
yet. Okay. So they went to Russia to get you?
Yes,
Okay. Wow. All right.
me and my sister in that one trip. So
Okay.
my sister, who was also adopted from another orphanage there in Moscow.
Okay. Awesome. So how long thereafter did your parents decide to kind of go fully, I guess, get fully invested in the mission field?
I believe we made the move in 2007. Mom, you can
Okay.
correct me if that's not right.
So
But yeah,
where were you raised after Moscow?
Florence, South Carolina.
Oh wow! So there were already some South Carolina connections.
Yeah, so my parents are South Carolinians in their heart, or at their core, at their origin.
Hmm.
Father's from Greenville, and my mother is from Sumter, and they live in Florence, and have always been huge fans of missions and international missions, and had a big heart for missions in Russia, which I think is one of the big initial just pushes to adopt from there.
Right. That's awesome. So I would imagine that they were pretty involved in the church world before that point. Were they involved in ministry before going into the mission field?
Um, to a degree, it was not their profession or anything.
Okay.
Father was a doctor. My mother was previously a nurse,
Okay.
and yeah, so they were medical professionals.
Okay. Awesome. So you remember growing up for a little while in Florence, right, in South Carolina? Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. So then you moved to the Ukraine.
Mhm.
What was that transition like?
It was young for me because I was so young and I didn't really have a life that was my own
Hmm.
in the U.S. before I moved. It felt I mean, there were like a lot of like just difficulties of learning, this new culture and learning this new language. But I don't know. Looking back, I felt like it was just something that it was just a new life and a new day that was approached in that way. So I don't know. That was a long time ago. I was my first year there was in fourth grade. So yeah.
Well, that's cool. That's cool. So what was it like growing up in the Ukraine?
It was very, very different from American life and growing up here. And I can't really speak a lot from the comparing like American growing up
Right.
like, as a young American, just because that was not something I had experienced. But Ukraine is just a completely just different world. It's a post-Soviet country, and they got their independence back in the early '90s from when the Soviet Union collapsed, and so therefore they everything there operates at a different level, a different scale than what I had previously experienced in the U.S. and especially South Carolina. Um, so oftentimes culturally people are more. Um, they're more serious about things. Like one of the big things was like here in South Carolina, you can walk down the street and you say hello, maybe to someone you're passing by or you're smiling at them. That is not something you ever see there in Ukraine at
Yeah.
all. And
It's kind of like New York City in that way.
yeah,
Never.
it's very similar. Yeah,
Yeah.
and so like it was strange. Every time I would come back to the U.S. for a visit or whatever, people would like people I had no idea who they were in public would like smile at me or something, and I'd be like, oh, man, this is strange.
What's wrong with
Yeah,
you?
what's wrong with you? And
I remember.
so, so oftentimes there in Ukraine, if anyone is visiting, we tell them just don't say hello to people you don't know or smile at people because it's very strange for them.
Don't smile. It's a sign of weakness. I remember when we moved down here from Philadelphia, my wife had never been like really in the South that much. I went to school down here and I was born down here, so I was somewhat used to it. But I remember she came home and she just come to gotten done with the grocery store, and she was like super frustrated and flustered. And I was like, "What's wrong?" And she's from Jersey too, which is like even more like a little edgy. But she was like, took me so long to get out of the checkout line because the lady kept talking to me. And I'm like, just bring my stuff and get me out. Like she had no patience. So that's kind of where my mind goes. Like if it's not part of your culture, not part of like every day, I would imagine it would be a little shocking. Like you would feel like, what are you doing?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's like one of the big things I feel like I've learned over the past 6 years, after moving back here from Ukraine, is just patience. Just because people operate so differently, and they want to talk to you, and they want to do all these things. Where normally in Ukraine, like I'd be like, I'm here on task to do this one thing.
Right.
Or like don't connect with me on a realm outside of that one thing. So
Right. Right. Don't distract.
yeah.
That's very interesting. Let me pull up some comments right here. This is I don't know if you've met Miss Nancy. Maybe you have. Miss Nancy runs our daycare up at the top of the hill and does all of our children's ministry, elementary efforts up there as well, kind of organizing that. She's been here a long time and very, very valuable member of the harvest. But she says hi, and also she has a tremendous heart for adoption. I can't remember. I think they've adopted like 7 children. I think maybe I might be too much, but yeah, amazing. She and her husband Chris are incredible folks. There's Pastor Ken. Good morning to Pastor Ken. This is Nico, who hopefully we can have on very, very soon. Nico, we call him our first online campus official member. He lives in Oroville, California, and he's a member of Harvest in Oroville. Nico, an awesome, awesome guy. Here's Kristen Barber. Excited to hear your story, Nathan. This is my mother, who ironically was also adopted from an orphanage. So a lot of interesting connections there. This is Shauna. I hear you. Same in the German culture. So apparently the Iron Curtain. Not a lot of smiles happening there when you walk down the street. So let me ask you, like your parents that you moved to Ukraine, they immerse themselves in the missionary world. What kind of missionary work did your parents get involved in?
So it's shifted and it's changed over time, but initially it was really focused on young, like orphan work. So like I guess 2 things, like orphan work. So getting donations here in the U.S., collected, boxed up, shipped over. They would sort through them and find places and orphanages and young like kids house. Well, I don't know what you would call it. It's like youth that have maybe been living on the street or maybe haven't like ever been adopted, and so they have like youth houses. I don't know what the word for that is, but
yeah.
But like getting donations here to the U.S., sent over and then distributed there in Ukraine. More recent, so because my father is a doctor, he has been focused more on the medical missions field there, and so more recently he's been teaching medical English classes and language to some of the universities there, and the university students that are interested in learning more about medical English.
Right. Interesting. Very, very fascinating. So just from a cultural standpoint, I think when I at least picture Ukraine, I picture like what I've seen on TV, and it's kind of dark and kind of like rough and things like that. What's the culture like in Ukraine? And then the follow up to that would be like, how receptive or how prevalent is Christianity there?
Yeah. So generally, from what I've experienced, there's just, and this is with most post-Soviet countries you come across. The people are very not standoffish, but there's a distrust that you will like that's felt automatically because I mean back in the Soviet days there were times where you couldn't trust anyone around your family, right? And that's carried down through time and through culture in a lot of different ways. That's still felt today, and so therefore, the way that's portrayed through the media or through TV, I mean, there's a whole like Russians like, oh, Russians very mean people, or whatever. So like there are times where that is a thing, but I think the big misconception with all of that is that the people of Ukraine they have such a beautiful and rich and deep culture that's missed because people look more towards the immediate, like, first, like, oh man, this person didn't smile at me, so like
Right.
they don't like me or whatever. And so they kind of, so it takes so the big thing is that culturally it takes a lot of time to get to know someone, to be trusted by people.
Hmm.
And so and I think that's one of the big reasons, like, missionaries there in Ukraine stay for so long, because it
Hmm.
takes time for them to establish themselves as people on the front end, to say, we're not here to, like, shove the gospel down your throats, or like, force you to do something that completes our missionary work. They're
Right.
there as human beings to try and connect with others, before they're trying to, do their missions work. And that's how ministry, that I've seen, at least in Ukraine, has to happen, just because of the nature of the culture.
Right.
So with that, the people there are interested in the gospel. They are interested in Christianity.
Hmm.
From what I've seen, people go to church. I mean, it's like, I've heard, what's it, CEO, Christmas, Easter, and
And
special
another,
occasion. You know,
yes.
so and so I'm, of course, I was involved with a church there, and I had a lot of friends, Ukrainian friends, that were just strong believers in the gospel. You
Hmm.
know, and so
That's awesome.
I was able to surround myself with that type of community, um, and so that's what I felt. But there's a lot of people who just, I think, have a distrust for faith and for religion, because they felt like maybe in the past it's failed them, and so they maybe haven't given it a second chance.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and it obviously makes a lot of sense as well. I want to again welcome anyone who's joining us right now. Thank you so much for taking time out of your morning to learn the story of Nathan Crane. And for those that don't know, now you have a face with the name. Nathan is our new tech director at Harvest, a jack of many trades, and does an excellent job. And we're super blessed to have him on board. And a lot of the advancements and progress that we'll make at Harvest will be because of Nathan. So. Again, if you see him around, be sure to say hi. I think he's got. Sometimes you might see him in the Indiana Jones hat.
Yeah.
Sometimes, but that's like your trademark hat. Okay, I got to get the backstory on the Indiana Jones hat. And I don't even know if it's Indiana Jones. It reminds me of that. So, what's the backstory on the hat?
So there's a downtown Colombia. There's a store called the Mass General Store. It's
Right.
like, um, for me, like, every time I walk in, it's a very, very, like, American cultural experience, just because the items you have there are, I mean, it's not stuff I grew up around seeing and
Right.
experiencing. And so every time I go in, I'm like, whoa, look at this place. Also,
Yeah.
like, the candy section in there. Oh my
Oh
goodness.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
That's old school American candy. That's like
barrels and barrels of candy.
yes.
Oh man. And anyone who really knows that I've got, like, a sweet tooth, and so I'll pop in there and get candy a lot. But one of my first times in there, I saw this hat. It's like this Stetson
Mhm.
mesh hat that I really liked, and I put it on, and it didn't look too bad, in my opinion. I thought it
Yeah.
looked nice. And I mean, I am a photographer, because I shoot a lot of times. We're shooting outdoors, and I need a hat to,
Right.
keep the sun out of my eyes, so I can see what's going on camera wise. And so
Yes.
I purchased this to be able to hat, mainly just to be able to, like, keep the sun out of my eyes as I'm shooting non-formal events. And
Right.
then it just got to the point where, like, I would be wearing it daily through college. And my now wife would be getting, like, Snapchats and messages from people that she knew, like, filming me walking by or off in the distance. And they knew it was me because of the hat. And so
Right.
it became a part of my my attire at that
Okay.
point. And so today, like, I love. I've just got two hats. One formal one. I wear that one on Sundays. I wore it for the first time, I think, to Harvest yesterday.
Right.
And I've got my non-formal one, and so I've honestly used that now as a branding piece. I have a project called the Traveling Hat,
Okay.
um, where I explore post-Soviet Russian Ukrainian culture. And so, because I grew up in Ukraine, I have the opportunity to travel back and forth between here
Right.
And I've been able to explore Russian culture and language and literature, and I want to share that in media format. And so I've got a project where I've been filming for the Traveling Hat, just kind of showing others this new type of culture that they may not be used to.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. We just need to get you a bullwhip, and you'll have the whole the whole setup. No, that actually is very, very fascinating. I'm going to back up a little bit just because we had a bunch of people here hop in, and this is from Pastor Nate first, and he says Nathan's a great musician and singer. True. I wonder if you could sing something in Russian for us. So with that said, go ahead and sing for us in Russian.
Okay. This is like an old Russian folk piece.
Yes.
It's a war song, actually. It says,
okay.
Когда мы были на войне, когда мы были на войне. What are the other lyrics? Okay, I'm just gonna leave it at that.
Yeah, no, that was great. That was 1,000 times better than I could do. So we'll take it. There you go.
Yeah.
You go, Pastor Nathan already making it happen. So Ruth mentioned this, and I was going to say this when you were talking about candy. Like my first thought was, did we just become best friends? Because like for about 2 years, my office here at Harvest was like a de facto candy store. We had this church family member who worked for Mars and would like bring me all their surplus stuff. So literally, dude, like I had like your favorite candy. I probably had 200 packages of whatever it was, like all over my office. Now it was good in some ways. It was bad because I consumed it. Like if it's there, I'm going to eat it. Yeah, I have a sweet tooth and I love candy. So Ruth was tracking right there. They know. Everybody comes to my office. Jonathan, do you have any candy? I'm like, I have a candy. What do you want? But so all right. So the follow up to that would be, hold please. To find. Kristen wants to know, what's your favorite candy?
Which culture?
She didn't specify. Let's just say like your favorite anywhere. Like
okay. Oh man, it's such a hard choice. Like I'm gonna go with American because y'all know American candy.
Yeah.
So my favorite American candy is Sour Patch, not the watermelon ones, but like the normie ones.
Right. I think we can all agree that the watermelon ones aren't real Sour Patch Kids.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, they're just watermelons. There's no. Yeah, I feel like I can respect that. The problem with Sour Patch Kids is you just can't eat 17. Like there's like you have to eat the whole box. Like you can't. Yeah. I was telling somebody this yesterday. Like self-control. Not one of my fruits of the spirit that I'm very, very good at. So we're going to work on that. Going back to your project, Ruth said her sister would love that project, your hat project. Christine wants to know where she can see this project. So if people want to see some of your work, where can we send them?
Okay, so I will first send you to my media website. This is just like the professional work that I've done, nathancranepro.com, short for Nathan Crane Productions, which is what I kind of branded myself. I wasn't sure what to call myself, like from a media standpoint when I was first getting into the media world. And so I just branded myself as Nathan Crane Productions. And so I've got a website for my media stuff, nathancranepro.com. Traveling hat.
Right there for everyone.
Yes. And I just want to make like nathancranepro.com. I'm just gonna make sure it works real fast. Oh, yep, it does. Okay, good. The traveling hat right now, there's only two videos for it on YouTube, but it's called the Traveling Hat. And I actually just this past summer, a couple months ago, went with another Russian program friend of mine. He's very just like very knowledgeable within the world of Russian language, culture, history, politics. He and I both went to Alaska to a Russian village called Nikolaevsk that was there and established back in the late 1960s.
Okay.
They were pursuing religious freedom. And so we went, and so I had been curious about like the people of Nikolaevsk and exploring them. So we booked tickets and we went to Alaska, and I've got like 6 or 7 like videos that will be coming out in the next couple of weeks, exploring Nikolaevsk.
That's exciting. I can't wait to see that. That's awesome. Very, very cool. Somebody asked to see the hat. You probably don't have the hat on you right now, so
I do not. I mean, it's over there. I can get it. I also got to get my MacBook charger because my computer is kind of on the. I'm gonna knock it out and I'll be right back.
All right. We're gonna take a pause. Again, for those joining us, what's your story with Nathan Crane? Fascinating story. So many different elements that we're going to try to tackle here within this hour. Keep your questions coming. We'll try to get to them. I know somebody asked. I think Jan asked about what brought him to the University of South Carolina. When he comes back, we'll kind of fill in the gaps, and then we'll get to that question as well, Jan, because I'm interested as well. I would imagine the connection back to the state of South Carolina. His parents. I think his mother is from Sumter, his father from Greenville, and then they lived in Florence. So I would imagine there was a connection point there, but we'll dig into that a little deeper, Jan. So if you have more questions, feel free to shoot him at us while he gets his Mac charger and his hat. I'll remind you, please hit the share button. Spread this around. Stories are for everyone. Your story, Nathan's story, my story. It's for us, but more than that, it is for God to use wherever he wants to use it, right? So we're looking for connection points with other people that may, we pray, hopefully lead them into a relationship with Jesus or begin that conversation. So hit the share button, spread it around, because that matters. Your shares matter. And nowhere in history have we had the ability to reach as many people as fast as we do with the push of a button like you do now. So let's take advantage of it. So do we have the hat? We got the hat?
Okay, so this is the this here is the Stetson. This is my very first hat, and yeah, this is the OG Nathan Crane, traveling hat. And then man, when was it? It was in January of like 2018 or 19 or something. My wife and I went to the very, very first Mass General store up in North Carolina, and she bought me this hat. This is my formal hat.
Okay,
so
yes.
With my formal events and stuff.
Is that the official traveling hat? Is that the one that's documented, or the meshes?
Yeah. This is the traveling.
Oh, that's
hat.
Okay. All right. Love them. All right. Yeah, you pull it off. Yeah, I don't know if I could. Yeah, I don't know if I could pull that off, but you do a great job of it. Love it. All right. So let's go back to everybody saying nice hat. Everybody loves your hat. Love the traveling hat. Love the hat. Donna says nice hat. We have Kristen confirming that the Sour Patch Kids are fantastic.
Good.
So yeah, a lot of love for the hats and a lot of love for the candy, and I have to go along with that as well. All right, so we're back in the Ukraine, and you're living life. You're growing up there. Your parents are involved in the missionary field. Were you in an American school? Were you at a Ukrainian school? Were you homeschooled? What was like adolescence like there for you as it pertains to just like growing and maturing?
Yeah, there was I guess it's an American school called Kyiv Christian Academy. It's, so everyone that went there was kids of missionaries, and this was like maybe 90% of everyone who attended there was kids of missionary parents.
Okay.
And then they had some expats, so people, kids of families who are working there with the American embassy or there for some other official government work. And so, and this wasn't like a faith-based school, right? And so, and so that was like big. There are a few other English-speaking schools there in and around Kyiv that also existed, but this was a Christian school. So we went there for 5 years, and then we switched over to online studies, and I spent the last 3 years of high school doing online studies.
Okay, very, very cool. I want to bring this person in because I don't know them. I'm pretty sure you do, and I can't even pronounce the last name. So, do you know that person?
Khadatkar?
Maybe not. Anyway, they like your hat. I don't know who they are, but welcome. I thought that was one of your friends. Welcome, Nalima. We're excited to have you part of our stream today. Yes, and she likes your hat, or he likes your hat. Forgive me for getting that one wrong if I did. So your parents are missionaries. Obviously, you're immersed in I guess what I would call a Christian culture there with your family and just some of the things that you were involved in. What was church life like there for you? Were you guys was there a church that you were like attending consistently, or what did that look like?
It took a little while for us to find our our church home there. There was a lot of the missionaries went to a church that a lot of other missionaries went to. That they would speak English there and preach in English, and they would provide some form of like church home there
Right.
in Kyiv. We chose to not go that route because we were there to connect with. And share the gospel with and be among the Ukrainian believers, right? And so
Right.
we went to this church there called Novaya Zhytya, New Life Church, and it met in downtown Kyiv. And so it was a really, really, really great opportunity to get plugged in there with the Ukrainian faith culture and the
Right.
and Christians there. And so so I found my place as I was getting more into my teens as a musician. I began playing on a worship team there with
Okay.
with the worship band and like learning how you're learning new words for like parts of music and whatnot that I did not get in my Russian language classes. And then I was able to connect with I got some really, really dear friends through the youth groups there and the worship teams and stuff. And so it was just an amazing time. And I'm very thankful that I was able to capitalize and use that kind of as an avenue to just make friends and be with like-minded believers in that way.
Right. That's awesome. Very, very fascinating. Let me ask you this. When did Jesus become real to you?
I know I accepted Christ into my life when I was here in the U.S. before we moved to Ukraine. But I think like a lot of kids who kind of grow up here in the U.S., it was more something that was just kind of done based off of at least what I've talked with people here about, just something kind of do. And for me though, growing up on the mission field was it provided really just an opportunity to see in a tangible way that oftentimes people my age wouldn't be able to see like the will of the Lord being carried out and his message being carried out, and so I'm very, very thankful for the fact that I was able to grow up on the mission field, because I don't believe I would be where I am today from a faith basis if I did not have the opportunity to see how God works and God moves and how his work is carried out there on the mission field. And so
what were some of the ways that stand out to you or stood out to you or impacted you when we talk about like noticing the move of God or understanding the move of God?
There were a lot of times where I mean, like it's no secret, missionaries are not wealthy people, right? They require the support of people in the U.S. whether or not you're a missionary in the U.S. or outside of the U.S., they require the support of whoever is sending them out to operate, to live, to eat. And so there are just so many times where I remember hearing stories from my parents about how they had a sudden need pop up and like the very next day they would get this anonymous donation, or like something would come in financially, like down to the dollar, that would immediately provide for this need that's just popped up. Right. So that happened a lot, and that was just amazing to experience in that way, And so just stuff like that where the Lord had provided, so many really cool ways, and so just oh man, yeah.
That's awesome. So the evidence, and like the song, if Nate was here, he'd probably sing it, but he's not, and I'm not going to sing it. But the evidence is everywhere, right? Like the evidence of God was all over your life, and probably if you go back and think about your origin story, like the evidence of God was there as well. You just weren't aware of it at the time until later, and you can kind of just see how everything was aligned. That's awesome. That's awesome, and it's really cool that you were immersed in a church there that had a functioning youth group and allowed for you to grow there as well. In your heart, but being the son of a missionary, being immersed in that missionary culture and experiencing what you were able to experience, do you have that missionary heart as well?
I would say that for me, I want to be a resource and a support for those who are carrying out that mission work. And
Hmm.
I've tried to do that over the past, like since I moved away. Like I'll go back to Ukraine in summers and stuff, and I'll try to um, like create just like media around the projects that these missionaries are working on, that they're hosting. And one of my bigger pieces that I was excited to do was a few years ago. Just create this like 5.5 minute documentary on the like there's the back in 2014 there was a revolution in
Right.
Kyiv, right? Some of the Maidan Revolution, and
Mhm.
after that went down, there was this like youth revival that kind of swept across Ukraine, and these youths were like stepping up. And so I worked with a ministry there to create a documentary, a short doc on like what exactly is going on that way, and then that was used and distributed here in the U.S. and in Canada to then raise continued funding and support. And so like I really want to just be able to use. I've been wanting to use my media skills and ability to kind of assist and operate alongside of these missionaries and these organizations that are operating there in Kyiv, and it's been amazing.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I think that to me is a testament to the fact that God gives us gifts and talents for us to use to advance His kingdom, and that looks different to everyone,
Mhm.
but that all plays a role in the greater good, which of course is leading people to a relationship with Christ and advancing the kingdom. So that's awesome. Like, so clearly you're operating in the vein that you were created to operate in that way, which is a tremendous blessing. And I think just to bring that back to where we are as a church here at Harvest, and you probably have learned this already, we are very, very missions focused, where
Mhm.
that's one of our main values here at Harvest is our support and love and appreciation of missionaries. And for those of you out here participating right now, like your faith promise, when you make that faith promise offering to support missions abroad, like your offering, your gift goes to help people like Nathan's family, people that are out there dependent on the contributions just so they can operate and do what they need to do. So your blessing has been a blessing. So don't discount that and keep it up. That it certainly has a huge impact. All right. So you're growing up in Ukraine. You're getting to the age where you're about to go to college. And Jan has a question here. So we'll use this as a segue um, into how you landed back here. And she asked, you could have gone to college anywhere. What brought you back to the University of South Carolina? How did you end up in Colombia?
Yeah. Okay. So I think the biggest factor for me was um, I did not want my I did not want the time that I had spent learning Russian language to go to waste after I moved away from Ukraine. Like I had seen like a lot of people kind of move on from their time as missionary kids from the mission fields, and they had like spent all this time learning Russian and or Ukrainian, and then they get back to the U.S. and go to college, whatever, and like not capitalize on it. I did not want that to happen to me. And so there's a Russian program at the University of South Carolina that that's a really really great program. The directors there are amazing.
Yeah.
And so I applied to 5 different colleges, and once I got the yes from USC, I pretty much knew immediately that I was going to like I was coming to USC for the Russian program, and also like in-state tuition is kind of cool, right?
Yeah.
So
So I guess, yeah, so you still had contacts here that you were able to utilize that with, right? So were your grandparents here still, or were they?
well,
Uh,
like we kept a legal address
oh,
here in
okay.
the US, and we were able to essentially have that to operate off of for in-state tuition and stuff.
Right. Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So you're here. We've advanced to the point where you've left the Ukraine. You're at the University of South Carolina, and I know there's two different directions I want to take this. First of all, was there, because you had spent so much time in Ukraine and really grown up and I guess matured in the Ukraine experience, like the bulk of your life in Ukraine, was there a culture shock when you came to the U.S., when you came to South Carolina to live permanently, not just to visit and then go back, but actually just to live here? Was there a culture shock with that experience on the front end?
Well, I'll start off by saying I was not at all matured or anything like that when I first got.
Well, it's part of the process, right? Yeah, but like
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
that's what
but
you knew. I
yeah,
say like you're growing and you're learning and things like that. Yeah, no, I feel you.
yeah. So I mean, even before I moved to, um, even before I moved to the U.S., I would come back on visits, and I did not recognize them at the time, but um, like coming to the U.S. and experiencing aspects of American culture that I was not used to was a lot of times very, very, very difficult for me, and I would have panic attacks. Um,
Hmm.
and so when I got to the U.S. and I just like finally moved here for college, like every few weeks I would have to like step away from what was going on, and like just because culturally it was too much for me to handle,
Hmm.
and it's taken years for me to get over that. Um, and I mean, there are times today where there are things that culturally I'm not comfortable with, and there's so like you know I'm not sure like how long all that goes on, but it's certainly not as bad as it was back then.
Hmm.
And so every now and then I'll experience something here that I just that I'm not used to, and culturally like might need to take a step away from it or whatever. And then there are other times where like I'm excited to learn about this new cultural aspect, and so culture shock was huge. It was pretty big. I think that there are a lot of times where missionary kids come off of the mission field,
Hmm.
come to college, and they don't have a transition period of like relearning American culture, and so like that's really what I've spent the past 5 years here doing so far has been learning how to be an American and learning about what culture here is like, and then how I as an individual who is not raised here need to operate and should operate while still like keeping my own self and identity that I kind of grew up with. And so yeah, it's been very difficult, the culture shock side of things. But as time has gone on, it's gotten better and better for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I know you already mentioned just the kind of the face value things like the smiling and things like that. What were some of the cultural differences that really stood out to you that were shocking, and maybe what were some of the things that you kind of had to take a step back and process?
I think the biggest thing was that people were very eager to be friends,
Hmm.
and like friendship here for me is quite different than friendship in Ukraine. Here, it felt very surface level.
Hmm.
And maybe that's just the experience of what college is and what like the people you meet in college and our friends within college. It felt
Hmm.
very, surface level. And so one of the big things I remember is that people always wanted to hug, and
Yeah.
I felt really just uncomfortable like
Yeah.
having to do that. And so I just got to a point where I told people like, I'm not touching you. I'm not going to hug you. And like, they would get pseudo upset with me, you know,
Right.
and I'm like, this is not something that I'm doing. It's nothing personal. It's nothing against you. It's just like, this is weird,
Yeah.
to me at least. And so that was like one of the big things for the first like couple of years.
Yeah.
And so people kind of knew, like we're friends, but like, there's a time where there's a time process where you need to really get to know someone, in
Hmm.
that way. And so in the same way, the Ukrainians and Russian, like culturally, are just kind of distrustful of people. I think that was something that I kind of had picked up along the way and kind of like brought back with me. And that's been interesting, um, uh, like processing through that one thing,
Yeah. No, I totally get it. So, is there still moratorium on hugging? Like, is that a
um, a little bit. Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah.
So,
A
all right,
little bit.
all right. So if you see Nathan, is it fist bump? What are we doing here? If people like
Well, I mean, COVID's kind of changed it, but
Yeah.
like the handshake for me, culturally, the handshake is a very powerful thing.
Okay.
And so in Ukraine, you always greet someone with a handshake, a
Okay.
nice, firm handshake. And I think this
Yeah.
culturally here in the US something we
Right.
see as well. Not as much with COVID, but the fist bump is absolutely acceptable with that as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. These are all very interesting things, and I think everybody's kind of tracking with me on that. So, in terms of um, how the Ukraine does church and experiences and kind of walks through their Christian journey, how different is that than what you experienced in America?
Yeah. I'm gonna mention one quick thing before I answer that question. So this is like a personal, maybe more of a pet peeve, and I think anyone who like grew up in Ukraine and like, okay, so it's you don't say the Texas, right? You don't say the South Carolina. So like people were saying like the Ukraine because grammatically it was once a part of the Soviet Union in the same
Right.
way like the United States of America.
Yeah.
But it was at one point in time a piece of a pie that is now an independent country, and so it's
Okay.
honestly it's been politicized. So at this point you can
So it's just Ukraine.
it's just Ukraine. You
No,
don't
I'm glad that you cleared that up, because there was one point during this conversation where I was going to ask you about that, because I feel like every time I watch the news and they talk about Ukraine, it's the Ukraine, which is probably how it kind of got ingrained in me. So it's just Ukraine.
It's just Ukraine. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel the same way about cheesesteaks. Being from Philadelphia, it's not a Philly cheesesteak. It's just a cheesesteak. So yes, it's like I know it's completely not comparable, but I get it. So I appreciate the lesson there. So just Ukraine. All right.
Just Ukraine. Yep. Yep.
Like I'm on board. I'm cleared of that now. Thank you. All right. So going back to my question, Christian differences in how people consume church and how they do Christianity in Ukraine versus in America. What were some things that jumped out at you? Or is there a lot of difference? Like what does that look like?
Yeah. For me, it's huge. It took me a little while to find a church here in the U.S. that I felt comfortable with, because American church was so different than what I had experienced in Ukraine.
Right.
So like, the hold that people have on faith, if faith there is real to them, they are holding on to it. It's consumed them, as we should all be consumed, by Christ and living that life, but there it was just so real. You could see it and you could feel it on a much, much deeper level than I think what I had experienced here in the U.S. And I think a big part of that is that compared to other countries, the U.S. is pretty young, and there haven't been as many political and cultural struggles and difficulties that the people have had to face. And so, being it's a post-Soviet country, there were times where life was just really tough, and people had nothing, literally nothing, and nothing that they were able to own for themselves or anything. But faith was there, and so I think so the faith that people have there is very, very real. And so I remember like worship. Worship on a Sunday morning there was just absolutely insane. They would take a half an hour to just worship on the front end of the service, which here, like, I don't see that very, very often. It's just, there's this format that a lot of churches, it's like, oh, maybe 2 or 3 songs, singing together, and then have the message or whatever. But like in Ukraine, going to church felt like what an opportunity that we have to praise God right now. Amen. And take advantage of that, because the other side of it is like there are other places in the world where you can't do that, and I think the Ukrainian people understand that because of the tough times that they've gone through in life, and so they're able to really just hold on and take a grasp of allowing themselves to be in a time of worship and express that. And so worship was just absolutely huge, which is why I love playing on the worship teams there, because it just felt different, and it felt so real and different in a way that I had not experienced here in the U.S. And it was amazing. The other side of it was like, so for me, like worship was my big thing
Yeah.
there. And then there was the messages that were, spoken in Russian and Ukrainian, and that was like more of a language lesson for me. There was a lot of times where I just didn't understand what was going on. I was getting the gist of what they were saying, but like detail wise, I was like, I don't really know what's going on.
Right.
But yeah, man, church there is just people really just grasp onto it, and it's amazing to see. It's such a cool experience being able to bring missions teams over here from the U.S. and allow them to experience that type of worship. Like people would just walk away, just in shock of the difference of what they've experienced here in the U.S. And so it was huge.
Yeah, no, that's really interesting. And I think anyone who's gone abroad, especially in the missionary capacity, and experienced that overseas and in any country, it could be Africa, it could be Trinidad, it could be Hungary or Ukraine, whatever that is. I think that's probably the most eye-opening thing to anyone who goes abroad and witnesses how other cultures do church, right? Like how they participate in worship. And I think you nailed it. We're a comfortable nation, right? We're a very, very comfortable people. And it's almost that we grow up, even in church culture, comfortable, and it's superficial in some ways, the way that we do it, right? It's like I call it meat and three, right? Like you have it's like every day it's the same thing, and I know we're trying to break out of that mold, and we want to be more tuned in with the way the Holy Spirit's going. And I think people hunger for that so badly. They just don't understand what they're hungering for and what they're desiring. But it's that like innate thing that we all have inside of us that wants more, yet we're comfortable. Yeah. So I want more, but I don't want it more than 55 minutes. It's kind of like, I want that, but I'm not willing to kind of dig deeper and experience that. And I think that to me is probably what, especially people coming from other societies and other cultures coming to America, I would imagine it might even be kind of off-putting when they experience like.
I think that was, for me, that was a big part of the culture shock side of things. Just like I would come here and talk to people, I mean, inside of church, outside of church, and people would just complain, and it would be so difficult for me to listen to that, because like of course my experience is not everyone else's experience, and so like my viewpoints are going to be a little bit different. But in my head I was like, are you kidding me? Like you have had an easy life compared to so many others, first of all in the United States, but more so like abroad. Like the things that we have here and the opportunities and things that the Lord's given, like there's a lack of perspective. I think that people they don't have that to be able to appreciate truly what exactly it is that they have in their life, and be able to appreciate it and not take it for granted. So it's very, very difficult. That was a big part for me, that I've been learning how to manage, those emotions for the past 5 years, because it was bad the first couple of years. I was just like, I wouldn't want to talk to people because people were just complaining, and I've been like, listen, man, you gotta understand that like there's just so much outside of the US that people like fight for and struggle for, in faith and outside of faith. And you need to just like take a minute to appreciate, the opportunity that you have like right now, and not take it for granted,
Amen.
So,
I love that. Pastor Nate says, I think we all need a fresh perspective. And I think that's so true. And I love that song that we sing occasionally, like I'm going back to the heart of worship. And I think I want that to be my heart. And I want that to really to kind of catch like fire around all churches, not just Harvest, but all churches. Like it's funny because we're immersed in that culture, or the church culture here on staff. So we're always trying to do better and be excellent in everything that we put out, to the point where we discuss details in minutia that on the whole grand scale of thing probably doesn't mean a lot, but we're so, trying to hit this mark. When at the end of the day, like worship isn't really about us, it's about us giving it back to Jesus. And
Mhm.
and I love that perspective that you bring right there too. It again just kind of reinforces probably what a lot of people feel. We just don't know how to express it.
Mm. Yeah.
So very, very interesting. So you came to Carolina, and we're already in an hour, so I'm going to try to hustle through this because we could literally talk for 2 hours, and I'm
Yeah.
sure I wouldn't have any problem doing it. We'll see how that goes. But so you're at USC, you're kind of getting acclimated into American culture.
Mhm.
You're at, there's different universities and different colleges around America. USC is probably very, very American when it comes to our culture in terms of universities, right? Like big time sports programs, fraternities and sororities, 30,000 kids.
Yeah.
What was it like navigating USC for a while, or 4 years, or however long you did that?
Oh man, for me it was a constant struggle. It was a constant struggle between allowing myself to be a college student and having the college experience, and really like trying to take advantage of like my skill sets that I had. And so it kind of goes back to that whole um, like like oh man, how do I say this? I didn't want to come off of the mission field and like not use what I had learned,
Mm-hmm.
or feel like I was wasting my time watching a football game, because like in the end, sports in the grand scheme of life, in my opinion, it doesn't mean a lot when it comes to getting people saved or sharing faith. I don't know, like so like that was a struggle, and so but with that,
Can I just interject real quick?
Yeah.
It's never a waste of time watching a football game. Just putting that out there really quick. So you only get 12 a year. So you gotta take it. I'm teasing. Kinda. I'm not really teasing. I'm dead serious. So.
Okay. Yeah. But pretty early on, I decided I was going to start like working on my career,
Mhm.
and choosing to not indulge myself in like the college life or whatever. And so
Yeah.
I wanted to experience football games and stuff. And so my freshman year, I took advantage of like those free tickets. And so
Mhm.
I would go to those football games, but I would bring homework with me, and I would sit up in the stands and do homework while watching football. Because I didn't really understand how the sport worked.
Yeah.
You got a bunch of dudes down there, it's tiny little ball, and things are happening, but like I can't see anything. What's really going on?
Right.
So I would bring work with me, and I would do schoolwork. And it's funny because the parents like sitting around me would be like, I wish my kid were as studious as you. And I'm just like, I just don't understand what's going on down on the field. So
Right.
I'm here, but
Hey,
but
I appreciate the fact that you tried. Like, there's a
yeah,
lot of people that probably wouldn't even try. So
I
I
will
give.
say, hey, I will say I'm a big Gamecock fan right now, though. I
Yeah.
love watching football. I really do. It's just taken like me time to understand how the sport works and appreciate it on that front. So
Yeah. No,
uh,
that's good.
so football now is like a fun thing, and I'll try and watch the game every Saturday.
Right. Ruth says we need a part two. I don't know if there's like enough to do a part two, Ruth. I like the suggestion. So I'm just gonna keep rolling here, and we're gonna shove all the back end details in right now. So your passion for media, I mean, obviously you have an incredible gifting and talent when it comes to videography and photography and storytelling, using both of those mediums. How was that? Where was that born? And then how has that been cultivated to the point where that's such a huge part of your life?
Um, there was it was like the end of my very first semester here or in Colombia, and I got a group text, like me and 40 other people, and it was just like, hey, like I have a friend who shoots weddings, and he needs someone to literally just stand and hold a camera for like 2 hours. You don't have to have any experience doing anything. And me being like, I'm fresh into college, and I'm not really doing a whole lot within the college life at that point. I was like, that sounds fun, going to a wedding. And I mean, it's like a big party. So like
Mhm.
I got $100 from it. So
Oh
to
yeah,
me,
yeah,
$100 is a lot of money.
yeah,
Like the financial differences between Ukraine and the US. So like 100 for me, $100. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm rich. So
yeah, yeah.
so man, I remember like I went and shot this wedding with him, and it was so much fun. And I was like,
Mhm.
are you kidding me? people will pay thousands of dollars for you to go and just film a wedding. It's literally,
Right.
you know, 8 to 10 hours. And so I started working with this wedding videographer, and I got an email. I got like a flood of emails, like 7 months later, not even 7 months. It was like before the spring had ended. It was 4 months. And I got a flood of emails from his clients, like his current contract clients, saying, "Hey, sorry to hear your business partner shut down. Can you shoot our wedding?" So like this guy went and became an Orthodox priest and
Okay.
didn't tell me, and shut down his business and sent all of his clients to me. And so here I am, like I'm a freshman in college, and I have these couples asking me to shoot their wedding, and they're like we're talking big money for me. And I was like,
Right.
so I was thrown into the deep end of professional, like high level media, and it consumed me for the next 2 years. I was just focused on building a business from this opportunity, and so that was another thing where I said no to so much of the college experience because I was so hyper focused on just learning how to shoot and film and what gear to use and how to create my own style in that way. And so for me, wedding videography was this huge avenue for that. And that was kind of the real start of my like steps into media. And so I picked up photography along with that, and I've been shooting, you know, weddings and events and documentaries and all that stuff for the past, you know, 4 years, and it's been amazing and a huge blessing. You know, and again, it's not something I want to take for granted, which is why I try to, like, you know, have a focus within the missions world locally or internationally if I can, you know.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And it's cool to see how like everything kind of begins and just really like wow, I do have this like this leaning that I didn't even know I had. And then
Yeah.
like God's like, oh, by the way, I put this in you, and now you're really going to explore what all of that means and use it for me.
Yeah.
And then you're here. And for those that and maybe you're wondering, like we talk a lot about investment in our online campus and how
Mm-hmm.
effective we can be in that new world that's been apparent over the last 15 months. We have some amazing plans for our online campus and our promotions, our communications that have a lot to do with the gifting and talents that Nathan has. So stay tuned. Like if you think these stories are good, wait till you see what's down the road, because there are going to be some really cool things that will involve y'all
Mm-hmm.
as well. So psyched about that.
Yeah.
I'm going to fast forward again. You met your wife at college, Vaviel.
Vaviol.
Vaviel. Okay. No, Vaviel. Got it. Where did you meet her? And when did you meet her?
Yeah. It was
Don't
freshman.
mess up. Like this is a
Yeah.
landmark.
Oh man, don't no one
Yeah.
record this, please, and show it to her later on. I met her at the Baptist Collegiate Ministry on campus,
Okay.
and so doing like worship in Ukraine, I wanted to continue doing that, and I was doing. I was for a semester or two or something. I was a worship leader there at the BCM, and Bayville, very talented musician,
Mhm.
very talented pianist and vocalist. Um, uh, we met there and we absolutely hated each other. I was like,
That's normal. That's totally normal.
yeah, I mean, I was like, I was, you know, fresh off the mission field, and I was very like cocky because of that. I was like, listen, man, y'all don't know, like, like my experience worship wise, in Ukraine, like because it was so different here in the U.S. I was like, dude, stuff has got to change. And so like, though they were not very graceful, I kind of like took the worship ministry that they had going on, like, and turned it upside down and shook it until all the bad pieces fell out, and then reconstructed it. And Vaviel, you know, Vaviel and I were both very headstrong, and so we were butting heads for a year, and then she took a step away from the BCM because she was like doing sorority stuff, and it just was like out of time. And so like later on, like a year and a half later. I had like broken my wrist biking through a USC parking garage, and I was getting a coffee at a coffee shop on campus, and like I saw her sitting at this table like yonder, And I was like, oh, it's Fabio. I haven't seen her in forever. She was always
Yeah.
kind of cute. And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
we'll talk to her, you
Right.
know. So I did, and like our exchange was pleasant. It like
Uh-huh.
I laughed a couple of times.
Right.
I was like, this is weird. Um,
Yeah.
and I thought nothing of it, and I went on my way. And the next week, I saw her again at the same coffee shop, and it was like, "Oh, are you still in your cast?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah." We talked about that. I used it as a talking point, whatever. And
Hmm.
like again, our exchange was like really pleasant, and it just got to this point where I just like we started to kind of hang out, and I would go to one of the things that she got from USC was a degree in piano performance, and so she would be in the practice rooms at the School of Music like every single night, and so I would go and hang out with her there, and listen and like annoy her, and then walk her back to Capstone across campus,
Right. Yeah.
and yeah, I just got to this point where we were like dating before we officially were dating, and then we started officially dating, and then I proposed at the beginning of 2019, January 1st, in Boone on the top of a mountain, and
Wow.
and we got married April 11th of this year. So it's been 5 months. It's just over 5 months of
Yeah.
marriage, and it's been
Well, that's
absolutely
awesome. That is awesome. Awesome. Congratulations. I know you have a bunch of Harvest family members that can't wait to meet her and welcome her into our family and hear her play and
yeah.
sing.
Mhm.
So that's awesome. What a great addition. What a blessing. I think people out there, I say people, all of you out there, you need to understand like how long we've been praying for Nathan, right? God delivers. Like we had specific prayer requests out there that I personally, if you would have talked to me, I would have said like, there's no way that we're going to find someone with this skill set. Like, it's just not gonna, like, you don't find those people randomly. And then not only did we find one, we found one locally. And you're married, and your wife is incredibly talented and gifted as well. So, what a blessing, right? God hears your prayers. Like, there's
I'm
ever
very
a doubt.
thankful. Very thankful.
Nathan is certainly proof of that. Okay, so we're here, we're there. You're married, you're out of school, you're
Yeah.
here at Harvest. Your wife is still transitioning out of the former church, which is completely understandable. Let me ask you this as we wrap: like the impact and the importance of your relationship with Jesus. What does that look like for you?
Um, it's a very, very personal thing for me.
Mhm.
And because I've been scared of like, I don't know how it's gonna like come across if I say it, but this is just how I say it. I can say it. I don't want it. I'm scared of my relationship with Jesus becoming American,
Gotcha.
and like superficial. And so I've been very. It's a very personal thing for me, and so like you know, and so there's a lot of times where like I'm not as outgoing about that as maybe others are because I don't know. It's just been this transition period,
Right.
and kind of navigating the waters of what does this look like for me now that I am no longer living in Ukraine and married adult here in the U.S. and stuff. And so for me, it's just I love spending time in prayer. And for me, it's just a very active thing. I mean, something I would do in Ukraine just because there's people in need all around you. Just pray for those around you as you go about your day. So that's something I really love doing here. Um, as I'm going on through life, scripture is very, very important to me. There was like a moment where there was a moment in Ukraine. I was like wrapping up, high school, and I was just going through a tough time and trying to figure out how does one become, a better man of God.
Hmm.
And I just been asking this one question for months and asking the Lord to reveal like what do you do, and there was this moment where I was sitting on my bed, like going through Russian homework and trying to memorize like all this like vocabulary, and I was like, oh man, I was like, Lord, like what does one do to become a better man of God? And
Hmm.
I heard this voice
It's a great
behind my
question.
behind my like right shoulder, and it said Nathan, and stop. And I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. So I kept doing my Russian homework, and I heard the voice again say, Nathan, stop. And first thing that came to my head was test the spirits. And so I was like, if this, like, Lord or Holy Spirit, if this is you, like talk to me again. I kept doing my homework, and again I heard the voice saying, Nathan, stop.
Wow.
And so I stopped, and I said, I said, your servant is listening, you know. And so they said, put down your work, and I put down my work, and they said, pick up your Bible on your nightstand, and so I did, and I heard 3:16, and I was like, are you kidding me? John 3:16.
Right.
I'm about to have. I am having this spiritual moment right now, and you're about to give me John 3:16. And they said no. 2 Timothy 3:16. And I had never heard this verse before. And I read it, and I was just like, I was floored, because this was a direct answer for exactly this question. You know, being in the Word and learning from the Word. And so, oh man, I was shocked and thankful that the Spirit would talk to me so directly in that way. And so, so for me, like, time in Scripture since then has been so important and so vital. And I think it's vital for every believer, you know. And so, yeah, it's just a very, very personal thing for me in that way.
That's awesome. What a beautiful story. We're about to wrap here. I want to put this up because I have no idea what it says, and you might, but
oh yeah.
So, brother, just give us like a couple first slides. What are we reading here?
Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying this is Ukrainian.
Okay.
I chose to speak and learn Russian because it's spoken more worldwide than Ukrainian is. Okay, so it said, hey, good evening. It's evening there in France, and this person saying that they live in France. They're from Spain, living in France. What do I think? Okay. There's like talk of like money amounts in here, and yeah, I need to spend a little bit of time.
All right. Well, interesting contact. First time that's ever happened here on one of our morning devotionals. Certainly, first time it's ever happened on What's Your Story. So we're breaking all kinds of new ground here today. Pastor Nate, going back to that little story you just shared with us about really just kind of hearing the Spirit and being directed by the Spirit. All Scripture is God breathed. Amen. Amen, Pastor Nate. So with that being said, let's wrap this up. So you've been at Harvest a couple of weeks now. I usually say, like, if you were on the street and someone, I know you have a Harvest shirt now. We've equipped you with some swag, or you, as you would say, that as the young people say, drip. That's what you said to me. I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but you have a shirt. Say you're out and about, you're down in Forest Acres or whatever, you're walking your dog and you have a Harvest shirt, and somebody's like, oh, Harvest, I've heard about that. Tell me about, you go to Harvest. Why should I go to Harvest? Like, what would you say to somebody, just based on your initial impression, why somebody should check out Harvest?
Yeah, one of the big things that I've loved so far is that there is structure within what y'all are doing there. But there is not so much structure to the point where the Spirit can't move, you know. And so, like, that's, I think, a big thing I've experienced and seen is like these churches have such a rigid, like, structure they live, breathe, and die by, and it doesn't allow God to work or the Spirit to move in the service. And so, like, I love the opportunity that provides, that y'all are really capitalizing on that, you know, and that's been really, really great to see. And, you know, looking around, it's evident that the Spirit moves through Harvest and what y'all have going on there inside of the service and outside of the services, and just in the congregation and in the community groups and things as a whole, you know.
Awesome. Well, Nathan Crane, our brand new tech director at Harvest, already been completely welcomed into our family. Can't wait to welcome his wife as well. And he is going to take us to new heights. And we are so, again, very, very blessed to have him and his wife here with us, and can't wait to see everything that's going to transpire over the next few years. It's going to be amazing. So if you see him, say hi. Don't hug him, shake his hand, and he will shake back a very firm and welcoming handshake. But man, we really are blessed, and this was awesome. This was also the longest one that we've ever done, which is totally fine because I think it's such a fascinating story and so interesting that people will not only stay here on the live audience, but go back and watch it on demand as well. Great stuff, Nathan. Man, I appreciate your time, and I'm excited to be able to share your story with other people because I know it's going to impact someone out there. So with that being said, if you have a chance, hit the share button, spread it around, let other people learn this story as well. And man, so much fun. I want to remind y'all coming up, and I don't want to pull the graphic up right now just because I don't have the time to pull it real fast, but welcome dinner. If you are new to Harvest, maybe you've been a couple weeks, maybe you've only been to one service, maybe you've been coming for a few months and you've yet to take part in a welcome dinner. We have one coming up this weekend at 5, I want to say 5 o'clock. I don't think it's 5 o'clock.
So 5:30, right?
5:30, yes, 5:30. Sign up, it's free. There's power and good things happen when you break bread with other believers, and that's really what it's all about. It's a chance for us to break bread together, for us to learn more about each other, for us to introduce ourselves, for you to learn about Harvest and learn who some of our leaders are, but really kind of get a preview into the DNA of what Harvest is. So participate with us. You can still sign up via our website. I think you have.
Oh, your mic is, disconnected.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, I did that. Sign up, participate with us in our welcome dinner. If you haven't done it, you will love it, and you will be glad you did. And then the following week for the 26th, Connect Group kickoff. If you're not in a Connect Group, join a Connect Group. Life is better connected. Life is better when you have friends and you're able to build relationships with people to do life with. Life is better when we can do life with people and experience the highs and lows and the encouragement and the support of others. And that's what is fostered via a Connect Group. Those launch on the 26th. Again, on our website, the-harvest.org. You can find more information and find a group that best suits you. We have online options available. We have in-person options available. But the bottom line is your church life, your Christian life will be enhanced by doing it with other people. And the Connect Group is your doorway to make that happen. And then Monday night, guys, we have our guys barbecue, our guys ministry kickoff. We're in a brand new building down in the alley. That will happen beginning at 6 o'clock on Monday evening. We're going to have a great meal together, a great cookout. And then we're going to hear an awesome word from Adrian Dupree, the former chaplain for USC sports, football, and basketball. He's also a motivational speaker. He's an author. He's got an awesome ministry that he's involved with as well. But man, dynamic and incredible speaker. You will be motivated and you will be heavily impacted by what he has to say. So all you guys, all you men, come out and hang out with us on the 27th. $5 at the door, but 6 o'clock, and we're going to have an awesome night. So we got a lot coming on every day this week. Our morning devotionals, of course, Wednesday night church as we continue through our awesome God series. And then on Sundays, we're navigating through signs. And as we know, this past Sunday yesterday was awesome. And that's a great start. And I know they're only going to continue to get better. So we love you. We thank you. We appreciate you hanging out for an extra long overtime episode here of What's Your Story. But I hope you all enjoyed meeting and learning about Nathan Crane. And we, again, are very, very blessed to have him. So with all of you, thank you so much. We pray that you have a very, very blessed day. Thank you, Nathan. Good stuff, man.
Thank you.
All right. Have a great Monday, everybody. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.